There is a certain kind of person who eats the plate in a specific order. The vegetables go first, the bread goes next. The best part, the one bite they actually wanted, sits untouched in the corner. They save it, every time, without thinking about it. Most people call this a quirk, a little food ritual, something you do because you're weird about your plate. Maybe you've teased someone for it, or been teased yourself. Harmless, right? But the truth is far stranger. That single saved bite is not a food habit. It's a window into how your brain decides what a good life even feels like. Think about how strange this actually is, once you slow down and look at it. Nobody taught you to do this. No parent sat you down and said, "Save the good part for later." You just started doing it, quietly, consistently, as if some part of you already understood a rule that most adults couldn't name if you asked them. What is that rule? And why does it seem to run underneath so much more than just dinner? Here's the moment you never noticed. You finish a meal. You're not thinking about the first bite anymore. You're not thinking about the middle of the meal, the parts that were fine, forgettable, just fuel. You're thinking about how it ended. And if it ended well, the whole meal gets remembered as good, even if 40 minutes of it was mediocre. Your brain doesn't file memories the way a camera does. It doesn't store every frame. It stores highlights. And one of those highlights is almost always the ending. So when you save the best bite for last, you're not being fussy. You're managing your own memory before it even happens. You are, without knowing it, running an experiment on yourself. Let's go back, decades back, long before anyone put a name to this. In the late 1960s, a Stanford psychologist named Walter Mischel sat preschoolers down at a table with a single marshmallow. He told them a simple deal: eat it now, and that's all you get. Wait, and you'll get two. Then he left the room. Some children ate the marshmallow within seconds. Others covered their eyes. Some sang to themselves. Some physically turned their chair around so they couldn't see the treat at all. What Mischel was watching wasn't willpower in the way people usually picture it. It wasn't gritted teeth. It was a set of tiny strategies: distraction, reframing, attention control. The children who waited weren't fighting the marshmallow. They were managing their own minds around it. Sound familiar? It's the same move as the untouched bite on your plate. You're not resisting the good part. You're scheduling it. Some children in that room waited the full 15 minutes. Some lasted less than 30 seconds. And here's the detail that mattered most. The children who managed to wait weren't staring at the marshmallow the whole time, gritting their teeth. The ones who succeeded were the ones who stopped looking. They found a way to make the treat less present in their mind, even while it sat 3 feet away. That's not brute force willpower. That's redirection. And it's exactly what happens when you push the good bite to the edge of your plate, out of the direct path of your fork. You're not fighting temptation head on. You're quietly rearranging your own attention so the weight becomes easier to bear. Why does your brain do this at all? Why not just enjoy things in the order they arrive? Because of something a different researcher discovered, decades later, using something a lot less pleasant than dessert. In the early 1990s, the psychologist Daniel Kahneman ran a study that had nothing to do with food. He asked people to put a hand in painfully cold water for 60 seconds, then stop. In a second trial, they did the same 60 seconds, but this time, the water was left running a little longer. Only now, it was raised by 1 single degree. Barely noticeable, still cold, still unpleasant, just slightly less bad at the very end. Here's the twist. When asked which trial they'd repeat, most people chose the longer one, the one with more total pain, because it ended on a slightly better note. Kahneman called this the peak end rule. It means your memory of an experience is built almost entirely from 2 moments: the most intense point and how it finished. Not the average, not the total time, just the peak and the ending. Which means the sequence of your day matters more than the sum of it. Which means the last 5 minutes of dinner can outweigh the first 30. Which means the person who saves their favorite bite isn't just being cute. They are quietly engineering the ending of their own memory, on purpose, 1 plate at a time. Kahneman later ran the same idea on something people actually dread: a colonoscopy. Patients rated their pain throughout the procedure. Some had the same procedure, but with a slightly less painful final stretch tacked onto the end. Those patients remembered the whole thing as less unpleasant overall, even though, objectively, they experienced more total minutes of discomfort. Isn't that unsettling in a way? Your memory isn't a faithful record of what happened. It's closer to a highlight reel edited by someone who cares far more about the ending than the runtime. So when you leave the best bite for last, you're doing on purpose what your brain would have done to you anyway, without asking permission. You're taking control of the edit. Here's where it gets stranger though, because delaying a reward isn't free. It costs something in the moment. And that raises a real question. Is the person who saves the best bite actually better off? Or are they just performing self-control for no reason, on food that doesn't matter? This is where the story gets counterintuitive. For years, researchers assumed the marshmallow test alone predicted a child's whole future. Wait longer, do better in life. But later reviews complicated that picture. When researchers controlled for family income and background, the marshmallow test alone became a much weaker predictor. The environment mattered as much as the willpower. So maybe delaying gratification isn't a personality trait handed to you at birth. Maybe it's a skill, one that's shaped by whether waiting has ever actually paid off for you before. That idea gets support from a much larger, much longer study. Starting in the early 1970s, a research team led by the psychologist Terry Moffat began tracking over 1,000 children in Dunedin, New Zealand, from birth into adulthood. Not for weeks, for decades. They measured things like impulse control, patience, the ability to stick with a plan, all before age 11. Then they waited, and kept measuring, for over 30 years. What they found was not a story about marshmallows. It was a gradient. Children with even a little more self-control at age 3 were healthier, wealthier, and had fewer problems with money and the law by age 32. Not because one moment of patience changes your life, because patience, practiced early and often, compounds, quietly, across decades. Which brings the story back to your plate. You are not thinking about Dunedin when you save the good bite for last. You're not thinking about cold water experiments or preschoolers with marshmallows. You're just eating dinner. But that tiny, repeated act, noticing something good, choosing not to grab it immediately, trusting it will still be there, is the same muscle. Just a smaller, safer version of it. Practice somewhere nobody's watching. Here's a question worth sitting with. What else in your life do you eat around, instead of eating first? Maybe it's a conversation you've been putting off, in a good way, saving the best part of a relationship for after the small talk. Maybe it's a reward you've promised yourself once a task is done. Maybe you already noticed you do this with vacations, saving the best day for the middle or the end, so the whole trip closes on a high note. Think about a long week at work. You get through Monday, Tuesday, the slow grind of Wednesday, all in service of Friday evening. Nobody schedules the fun part first. You already understand, somewhere below language, that endings carry more emotional weight than beginnings. You've been peak-end engineering your own week the entire time, without ever hearing the phrase. Or think about how you tell stories about your own life. The bad job you had for 2 years gets compressed down to one sentence, unless it ended badly. The relationship that lasted 5 years gets remembered mostly by how it started and how it ended, not by the hundreds of ordinary Tuesdays in between. Your past isn't stored, it's curated, and you are, whether you meant to or not, the editor. The mechanism is the same, whether it's marshmallows, cold water, or a dinner plate. Your brain is constantly asking one quiet question. How do I want this to end? And then it's arranging the present moment to answer that question in advance. There's something almost tender about that if you think about it. It means somewhere in you, there's a version of yourself that already believes good things are still coming. Not guaranteed, not promised, just likely enough to wait for. That's not discipline in the punishing sense. It's a kind of quiet trust. Trust that the plate will still be there in 5 minutes. Trust that the fork won't be taken away. Trust, in miniature, that the world tends to let good things stay put long enough for you to get to them. Not everyone has that trust. Some people eat the best bite first, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Maybe life taught them that good things don't wait around. Maybe it taught them to take the win while it's still on the table. Neither way of eating a meal is a character flaw. They're just two different bets on how the story usually goes. So think about your own plate the next time you sit down to eat. Notice what you save. Notice what you can't wait to have. It won't tell a stranger everything about you, but it might tell you something about what you believe is coming. There is a certain kind of person who eats the plate in a specific order, and now you know why. It was never about the food.